Hey everyone, my name is Rooster and welcome back to Mechabellum. As promised, I have some more videos on Season 8 and now is going to start a series of videos on the new Typhoon because it received a whole bunch of new techs, it got fully revamped, and its job is a lot more defined now, where previously it was kind of an all or nothing unit. If you got enough levels and you got a nice item, it could do practically everything. It could be a tank, could protect other units with its barrier, could be a chaff clear, could be DPS. Now it's been changed more so into a tank chaff clear unit, and its carry role has been taken away because it no longer has access to things like Mecha Rage to boost its damage, and no longer has access to the missiles, which really helped against some beefier targets. And to be honest, I really like it. I think it is lovely that a unit has a bit more of a defined role. It seems like it's far more useful now, even at lower levels, and it's not quite as oppressive if you happen to get it, at a very high level with an item. Obviously, it's still good, but it's not as Feast of Famine as it was before, and it really reminds me of the way that Mustang has been changed slowly but steadily into a all-or-nothing unit, where if you had a level 3 Mustang with an improved firepower control system and a bunch of levels, you would just kill everything. But if you didn't, it would be completely useless. And now, level 1 Mustang with culling rounds or culling an HE is a great chaff clear unit, but it loses all the attack to be able to do, the DPS role. And that's nice. Units being relatively simple in what they do, and building diverse boards, I think, is really interesting. Anyway, enough yapping from my side, as we have round 1 here between Zillalag and Apuchi. Zillalag will be a protagonist with missile spec, sledgehammer, marksman start, buys 2 fangs, going to play standard. Apuchi on the other end, also playing standard with a marksman spec pack, also has a sledgehammer opener, but with arc lights instead of the marksman. We'll be getting that level 3 marksman, the orange man, on round 2, and adding 2 crawlers instead of the fangs. I think here, typically, especially if you're up against triple Arclight, double Fang is definitely a nicer choice. Apuchi could have gone for, double Marksman himself, but it's a bit tricky because his opponent is triple Marksman. So if you, buy 2 Marksmen, you have no chaff, and then the enemy Marksmen only have good targets to shoot at between the sledgehammers and the arcs that you have. So it's a tough battle here, and likely a battle that Apuchi wouldn't be able to win. Now, though, he gets access to his marksman, and he should be fine. Round number 2, we do get a bunch of strong options. I think round 2 still has a lot of very powerful cards between some of those, unit drops, between the Wasp Swarm, the Rando drop, Wasp Swarm being offered here, and, cards like the Shield drop or Intensive Training. Intensive Training is going to be the pick for Zillalag. Grabs it nice and early. We'll be able to get plenty of uses out of it. And, well, we also have some other pretty strong items. Haste module always could be nice. Somewhat harder to use in standard. Can be good on something like a Vulcan. But if you're not planning to go that route, sometimes, it's a little bit tough to pull off. And the speed isn't necessarily something that you need in these long-range engagements. Anti-interference module, also decent. But, again, an item that more so suits an aggressive playstyle where you're at risk of getting debuffed, and then, well, that item kind of prevents you from suffering from, that happening. Now, Zilly is instantly going to go for Typhoon, and that is the unit I wanted to highlight in this particular replay. Now, a lot of things have changed, as I mentioned, and so there will probably be multiple videos kind of showcasing the different ways of using Typhoon, and what I want to highlight here is how to play it in standard, because that has now become possible. In the past, Typhoon was kind of limited to low range engagements because it didn't have range enhancement, and that meant it really suffered in these type of scenarios, but now it does have access to range enhancement, and in fact, it has more range than a lot of chaff clear options. More range than Arclight, more range than Mustang, more range than even Vulcan. And that means it's relatively safe. If you look at the tech bar here that Zilly is running, I think it is the default one with range, air defense mark, reactive armor, and field reassembly. Field reassembly, by the way, exceptionally strong. Very, very good. Basically, it's quantum reassembly from Phoenix, but on steroids. You don't need other Typhoons to still be alive for this to work. You just need to have some units still alive on your board, and the Typhoons will respawn at least once on their own. And yeah, we might see some of that later on in this game. Let me speed up here a little bit. That is a tough round, by the way, for Apuchi, because, I mean, both of them do have their power spike here on round 2, so I guess it's not as bad. And Zilly did pre-level the Typhoon with intensive training, so even though it killed the marksman, that experience kind of got wasted as, well, you know, it already got the level anyway from that spell. Here on round number 3, we get some unit reinforcements. Some interesting ones. I mean, Scorpion here, rather nice for Apuchi, and makes sense that he does pick it up. Interestingly, I did talk about anti-interference module, which Apuchi decided to pick up. I'm not convinced that that was the best pick, but I can understand that Wasp Swarm against all of these fangs didn't look too appealing. But I just don't think that anti-interference is that amazing in these long-range fights. Hackers got nerfed. I've seen them a lot less, so not sure how worthwhile this is, but it is a cheap item, so, you know, in the end, it's not going to be that bad of a pick, even if it ends up doing very little. We have the Wraith pickup here. It does sell for the most alongside the Scorpion, and Zilly just not really interested in any of the things that were offered. Mustang could be something to consider. I wouldn't have minded it, to be honest, for Apuchi either, but I think the Scorpion does make more sense, especially when you already see the Typhoon and the sledges. That just seems like a very good unit to have. Second missile from Zilly going to get used up here, but yeah, that Wraith just has free reign on the flank, going to take down the fangs, likely going to take a debuff. And the question is, how much can the Scorpion do before that happens? Right now, it is working away at the Typhoon, manages to get rid of them right before it falls to the marksman, not even a debuff needed. Right side, though, with that debuff, can this marksman pull off a miracle? Doesn't quite look like it. Level 1, even with the debuff, just not quite able to take down that Scorpion. And now the question is, will this marksman survive? Because realistically, that is the only unit that can take down this Wraith. It does look like the debuff here is going to be good for Apuchi. All of the units are going to take over or overtake the marksman, meaning that it will sit safely and be able to take down that Wraith. So good round number 3, and we've got a game on our hands. Likely expecting some type of Typhoon tech here. I think range enhancement, probably the thing you want to go for first, as Zilly picks up a haste module. It shows up yet again. And, well, Typhoon definitely is one of the better recipients for it. It's very similar to Mustang in terms of what it achieves, except, you know, it's a tankier version of it with less units in the pack. And yeah, level 3 with that haste module and the attack increase on round 4. I did say that, you know, it's a little less versatile perhaps, but, you know, when a unit is this high level this early on, or it's over leveled compared to all of your opponent's units, it likely will be able to do more than just chaff clear. So yeah, do keep an eye out for this little guy, or big guy. And Apuchi just going to end up picking the Rhino. Perhaps afraid that a Rhino would get used aggressively here, because this is being used rather, yeah, well, just defensively and not really super proactively. Could have gotten a debuff here for sure if he decided to just put it somewhere over here and kind of bully that marksman and the fangs. In the back, maybe it will end up doing something. I mean, that Scorpion now with the range enhancement, instantly getting the lock-on onto the Typhoons, even though they did get range. That is not exactly what you want from your hero Typhoon that you invested so much in and gave an item. This looks disastrous. Scorpion's just eating good, not just on the left but on the right side as well, and the Rhino drop just gets to live. It didn't even do that much. It was there for moral support, but I guess it'll deal the additional 50 damage here at the end of the round. And suddenly things aren't looking too good for Zilly. Down to 2200 there, taking a massive chunk. And round number 5, scary items being offered here. We have heavy armor. That could be a big problem on a level 2 Scorpion. It likely would be my insta-pick. Apuchi does go for it as well. I mean, he has a very good recipient for it there, so that is not too much of a surprise. You could go for enhancement module as well, but there's not really anything to bounce it around with, and he didn't take the intensive training, so I feel like that's just a bit too expensive. You probably get more value for less money invested out of the heavy armor here. And yeah, Zilly also going to go for the heavy armor. I kind of wonder what that's going to end up on. I guess you could always throw it on a Typhoon. It's not a bad unit to carry it, but you know, against a level 2 Scorpion with a level 1 Typhoon, it likely won't matter too much. Is going to put it on a new Typhoon all the way over here on the right, trying to kind of make sure that it doesn't face, you know, the big scary level 2 Scorpions that are in the middle of the board. A third one here gets added for Ipuchi all the way in the middle, targeting this Typhoon over here. And yeah, I mean, here if I were Zilly though, this probably should be the round where you buy something like a melting point. I'm not convinced that we have the damage to be able to kill the Scorpion, but, you know, this got insta-locked last round, so putting this chaff up front, making sure that there's enough crawlers kind of trickling in, protecting that Typhoon should help. But here you can see the problem with haste module that I mentioned early, right? This Typhoon is just walking so quick, it's outpacing most of the crawlers, and it ends up getting targeted immediately by this Scorpion. That never would have happened if it didn't have that 5 movement speed. So yeah, it's a double-edged sword, that item. The attack increase is definitely nice, but you have to be careful with your positioning, because yeah, you can kind of get you know, presented with an ugly surprise. I will say that field reassembly though is doing a good job. I mean, you're not managing to take care of the Scorpions, but that round looked a lot better despite, you know, still some relatively unfortunate lock-ons happening. And at least you've cleared the hurdle of double-teching your Typhoon, so hopefully now you can start buying something like a melting point, because that's 2 level 3 Scorpions and we really need to deal with them. Round number 6, we do get double Stormcaller. Not a bad, you know, unit into Scorpion, to be honest, because it's a slow-moving target. It's relatively large, hard to miss. That's exactly what Stormcaller loves to fight. It also heavily outranges it. Standard Scorpion tends to get heavily outscaled by a lot of things just because it doesn't really have the range. And yeah, that is something that Stormcaller can punish. But I will say that 2 level 2 Stormcallers, it's nice, but I'm not sure if it's enough to deal with 2 level 3 Scorpions here. And if we look at the tech bar for Ipuchi, there are some pretty scary tank techs available. Something like Field Maintenance here could be the nail in the coffin. 2 more Scorpions being picked up all the way on the outsides. And the Worm as well from the unit drop for Ipuchi. Other picks not really making too much sense. I mean, you could go for late Rhinos with armor, honestly. It wouldn't have been a terrible pick for Ipuchi either, but at the same time, you are somewhat expecting Zilly here to go for something like a melting point because it counters the Rhino, and that would also counter the Rhino. So, yeah, perhaps not what you want to go for. He is going to tech underground maintenance on the Sandworm. I'm not sure if that's super necessary, but we'll see how it does. Zilly, though, playing with fire now, delaying, you know, buying melters or some type of DPS here for another round. Ugh. Also did not fix this insta-lock with the Typhoon, so that's gonna fall. Obviously, though, it is going to respawn, and we can see that that's just happening, I mean, relatively quickly. It only takes 5 seconds, and as I mentioned, you don't need other Typhoons to be alive. You just need some units, any units, to still be alive on your board, and they will respawn once. But yeah, DPS is just not there, and Ipuchi did punish it by going Field Maintenance. Is there going to be enough hit points here to tank 5 Scorpions? Because it doesn't look like any of them will die. And yeah, that means that you're taking, quick math, 1250 at bare minimum, plus an arc, plus this, it's 1450. 16 hit points remaining. Okay, well, we still have 1 round to fix the problems, and the problems are relatively simple to solve, right? Chaff clear seems to be there. Tankiness seems to be there. The Typhoons are surviving a long time, but they just can't deal with the Scorpions no matter how much time you give them. So, yeah, melting point here, absolutely mandatory. And, I mean, if you can get them on the board, to be honest, at that stage, things might look a bit better, because Scorpions really cannot deal with melters in the long-range fights. Like, there is no siege mode available, so there is no like long-term scaling here available for the Scorpions. That second field maintenance tech doesn't do anything against the melting point. So, you know, if Zilly can find the correct button, and he will, maybe there is a chance for a little bit of a comeback. Obviously, there's a long way to go still, and the Pucci is very healthy. But ranged melting points, if they can get some quick lock-ons, perhaps could do the trick. There isn't that much chaff on the board for a Pucci. It's enough. It's kind of the minimum that you would expect here, right? 5 crawlers, 2 fangs, the classic. But Zilly has a little bit more, and I would argue that his chaff clear and resilience of his chaff clear is way, way better with, well, 5 Typhoons up against just a couple of Arclights there. I think there's 6 in total now, but, you know, Arclights really do not chaff clear better with just range than the Typhoons do. We'll have to take a look here. I do like this aggressive missile positioning. I think that's pretty clever. Could have gone for another one here on the Stormcaller. That is, well, placed vertically, so it would tank a missile and die. Can the Scorpions do enough? They are level 3, so if they happen to connect with a melting point, they'll get rid of it pretty quick. Scorpion there already taking care of the level 1 Typhoons, but as I mentioned, they will respawn, and when they respawn, you know, they tank another shot from the Scorpion with a 4.5 second reload. That's pretty valuable in and of itself, and it looks like on the left, the melting points are doing rather good. Late Fangs now arriving. That is one of the things Zillilag had, you know, over Pucci, just a little bit more late chaff, and it seems to be creating some problems here. Only one level 3 Scorpion left. Again, going to waste a shot on a Typhoon. Another one respawns, takes its place. And that is a really big turnaround on round 7. Melting points doing fantastic. A Pucci taking well over 1,000. And now we enter round number 8 with not the most interesting cards. Underground Threat probably worth picking, especially if there's no other good cards that you want. Just a bonus 1.5 packs of crawlers is going to be valuable enough to spend 100 on. Missile Strike, back off cooldown as well. Intensive Training too, although at this point I don't think Intensive Training is too useful. The melting points can kind of just, you know, do what they need to. Although level 3 Typhoon here picked up with the heavy armor. It has 54,000 hit points, which means that it can tank not just 1, but 2 shots from the Scorpion. It takes 3 from a level 2 Scorpion to take down this Typhoon, and then it will respawn on top of things. That is a scary prospect. And a Pucci here, not sure what he is going to do, because this is what I talked about before. Scorpion in Standard is just, it's not a good unit. You know, with Siege mode, sometimes you can get away with stuff, and, you know, Siege mode, Acid, yeah, you will have an okay time against a lot of Giants, but he doesn't run that. And yeah, 140 range, you know, it'll go up to 155 after the range buff, but you can't compete with a melting point, and that's without something like electromagnetic barrage. So he has to somehow find a different way of killing these melting points. Maybe just melting points of his own, but I don't know if that's enough. We'll have to see. If the Scorpions can lock on, again, level 4 Scorpions, if they can hit the melting point, they will one-shot it. But, you know, will they be able to? I think the chaff clear as well is just not ideal. Look at the amount of crawlers that are moving in. Scorpion completely distracted. And with its long reload, you know, every shot it wastes on a crawler or on just killing a single Typhoon that will then respawn. Look at that. Look at that timing. Typhoon dies right after the other one respawns. Same thing here again. Super unfortunate timings for a Pucci. Doesn't manage to efficiently get rid of the Scorpions, and because of that, it buys enough time for this level 2 melting point to lock onto his Scorpions. Right side also not going too well. Buying more worms is a strat that can work against melting point, but you need a lot more of them bundled up, and you typically will also need something like a replicate. And currently that's just not there. Another great round for Zilly. And all of a sudden things are pretty much tied up here. Obviously Zillilag only 16 hit points left, but, you know, when you're sub 1,000 on round 9, whoever wins will just close out. Round number 9, we do get one more set of unit reinforcements. Is there anything in here that is particularly useful? I'm not too sure. Steel balls could be an idea, but Apucci doesn't run the long range techs. No kinetic charge, so he can't go for a range kinetic charge build. He also does not run EMP on his Phoenixes, which maybe could have been a thing as well. Phoenix with EMP and range, very good against melting points. Just not there. Raiden, maybe with range and EMP, could be a thing. But yeah, it's tricky here. And also, you know, do you just invest more into the worms? Is that something you want to do? The right side does seem a little bit more takeable. It will be the steel ball pickup with armor, kind of trying to just bully the Typhoons. But here we go, and this is something that I was looking forward to, the reactive armor pickup by Zillalag. So what this does is that the first 5 instances of damage that the Typhoon will take are reduced by 80%. And the thing is, this gets refreshed after it reassembles. So it has a great pairing with field reassembly, as you get, you know, the first 5 ticks, but more importantly, when it respawns, you get it again. And where at the start, maybe, you know, some of those ticks might get wasted on tanking a shot from an Arclight or a Mustang or whatever, you know, once you've respawned a bit later in the fight, a lot of those, you know, fast attacking units will be dead, and it will just be Scorpion against Typhoon. And while blocking 80% of a Scorpion shot, that is rather valuable. You can see it as well if you click on the Typhoons, by the way. It has these little stocks above the units, kind of showcasing how many more, well, instances of damage it can block. And yeah, you can see that the resilience of this board just went up massively. I will say, Apucci here doing a lot better, but still just struggling to get through. These level 3 Typhoons, they're so incredibly tanky. I mean, he hasn't even gotten through the first stocks, I believe, on this Typhoon over here, and then the left side is doing even worse. This worm is doing all it can. It will take down at least a melting point there, but yeah, the board is just so spread out that it's not going to be enough, and Zillalag will manage to pull off the comeback with, you know, a comp that perhaps hasn't been around for a while. Standard Melter hasn't been meta in a long time. It used to be played a bunch with things like Stormcallers or Sledgehammers, but those have kind of fallen out of meta. But now with the Typhoon, even though it is an expensive comp, you know, I could see this work. I think Typhoon, range-wise, you know, it evens and even trumps most of the standard chaff clearing units that you would see, like Arclight, like Vulcan. And yeah, the late game resilience on this unit is ridiculous. It didn't showcase the chaff clear tech that they have, the detonation tech, which will be showcased very soon. That is a great tech as well. But yeah, interesting build and showcasing just how difficult these guys can be to kill. Also kind of showcasing that standard Scorpion without siege mode, it is very much on a clock. And I think, yeah, as soon as this kind of got turned around by Zillalag, it was an incredibly hard game for Apucci to win. I tried a bunch of different builds here, but I just couldn't manage to win the last round, no matter what I tried. So I think, you know, the round that really mattered is not round 6. It is round number 7, where Zillalag was down to 16 hit points. I think you have to try and win here. Close it out. You went for field maintenance on your Scorpions. You know that they're on a timer. And yeah, this is just where you have to close out and somehow manage to win. And I will say this also is very hard to do. I tried a whole bunch of different things and a lot of it didn't work. And eventually I think what I came up with is, obviously we want to lone temp range. We want to level the Scorpions, and we want to mainly missile to try and make sure that these Scorpions can get some early lock-ons. I will also go for this missile right here on that guy. And then I'm trying to recall, I believe I did something like this, where I just went for some Sledgehammers to try and block everything. And then aside from that, maybe just another one? Or a crawler, something along those lines? I'll just go for another sledgehammer here, I think. It's a tough one. Maybe we go for field maintenance and then another crawler somewhere at the back. Hope that that's enough. Can put this crawler somewhere over here. And then maybe we just level up this arc light. See how this performs. But the main idea here is that you are expecting some crawlers to show up on this right side to protect this Typhoon. If you can get rid of those, then, you know, you open up the path for this Scorpion to kind of crush the right side. And because there's a melting point there to take care of as well, you know, now things start getting kind of interesting. You can see the Scorpion here already manages to take care of one melting point. As soon as you get rid of the second one, then there's just no damage left right now to be able to get rid of all of the regen Scorpions, right? Still, pretty scary, because that middle melting point is doing an awful good job of stalling. But yeah, if you manage to take care of that right side, get the debuffs, you can get a win here, because the board just isn't quite set up yet. Zillalag doesn't have the deployments nor the money to be able to cover every single side with melting points, and that's why there's a bit of a gap here, which just means that this side wins automatically, especially if you punish the vertical Stormcaller. And the right side can win, right, by collapsing here on the diagonal if you manage to predict this crawler, which I don't think is too crazy. Again, you know, this Typhoon showed up the round prior. You are expecting it to be defended, because otherwise it just gets insta-locked. So this crawler can be predicted, and you can go for a missile. And either way, when you know that you're on a timer and you don't want this to go for one more round, you should be trying to go for these type of gutshot plays, right? Try and go for the missiles that, if your opponent doesn't block them, will create problems, right? Will get rid of crucial chaff. Will get rid of some crucial DPS units like this Stormcaller, and just allow you to collapse much faster, because getting debuffs still matters even in standard. Anyway, if you like this video, leave a thumbs up. Let me know down in the comments below what you thought about the game and what you think of the new Typhoon. Have you had games like this? Have you been playing it in standard? Let me know. If you want to step to the latest content, please consider subscribing. And if you want to see me play live, check me out on Twitch. With that being said, take care, guys, and see you in the next video. Bye-bye.